with the sweet living water that flows out from our own wells, deep within. And to look at that is to go back to the roots. And that's why I deliberately chose to go back to the etymology of these words that we have taken it as if for granted. All of it is interconnected. And that's why I put this in this diagram, economics, ecology, and ecumenism as being managing the entire household. I'll finish very quickly. I see that there is a shift in the audience, and so there's also another speaker. But just to impinge upon you just for a few seconds to see whether we can put these in perspective, not as if management is something that we do it just for a part of living, or maybe to pursue our own careers, as it were, but rather to see it more as managing our own households. And that is a training that we get through our own institution, which is not just a part, as it were, but whole in terms of our own being, not just as a part. If you look at education as a part of it for another one, it's just as a stepping stone, as we say. It's definitely not a stepping stone. It really becomes our own life. And that is what I impinge upon you this morning. The root word, again, to go back to ethos, we're talking about ethos right from the beginning of this day, literally means usage or custom. Therefore, I think a serious attempt needs to be made in order to discern what usage or custom means in a managerial context, in the Indian managerial context. I think the adjective Indian becomes very important. Indian, as being pointed out right from the beginning, is in a way a difficult thing to define what it means to be Indian. And especially for an Indian Christian, this has been a huge question that is asked in terms of my own understanding of what Indian means. Yeah, you are an Indian in Western clothes, as it were. But thanks to Gandhiji, he actually saw that right from the beginning, from our own institution, that what you're doing is for nation building. And this is what we need to be able to do. And that is why, at least for me, the Indian ethos is, what is that usage? What is the custom that makes me truly Indian? Is something that we need to ask ourselves. Whatever our so-called faith or non-faith affirmations are, deep down we need to ask, what is our custom? What is that we are used to doing? And then why we need to be doing it? And that's why I see two very clear ethical streams in our own context. What I call very simply explicit ethics and implicit ethics. Now, in terms of explicit ethics, relatively easier to identify. It may be an ethical account in an ancient scripture or ethical dictums such as Atiti Devo Bhava. It is all there. It's easier, I'm not saying it's easier to discern, where very well pointed out by Dr. Pillai. It's very hard to decipher though, but it is there. These are explicit ethics which we should be very concerned about. It is there and we have not held that very dearly. And that is why we need to go back to explicit ethics to see, because it's already there and all we need to do is identify it. But the implicit ethics that I'm going to talk about it's very slightly hard to decipher. For instance, the managerial practice of Dabbawala was studied by a Harvard case study group. And what did they find out? Is this. Initially, we assumed that the secret was in the operating system, in the way the Dabbawalas managed material and information flows. But the success can be attributed to the human resource system, the way they hire, develop, manage and reward people. The Dabbawala system works because of its people, not because of technology and sophisticated management. Now we need someone from Harvard, as being pointed exactly by Sir, to say this. And none of the business schools before that really picked up this system, which was there right in front of our eyes. Imagine that which is right there in front of our eyes, and we are somehow blind to this. And someone, and sir was also mentioning about Kumbh Mela, and these 45 chaps have to come out, and then what they do next is produce an excellent book and publish by a well-known authorship, and they give us especially out of discount, and then thankfully we get for 9,999 rupees. Thank you very much for saving my 1 rupee. It's very, very interesting because I've studied and I also lecture in the University of Kent, and this is what I see that is happening to our own systems. It is right there, and they steal from us and they sell back to us. The very same idea, and then we somehow gulp it as if it's come right from heaven, and then reproduce it and think this is the only business model. It has been stolen right from us, and that is what colonialism has done for the past 300 years. And it is still being done right now, right here, and in our own business schools. So why is it that we are not able to come to our own senses, as it were? Why are we so ashamed of our own heritage, of our own things, that others have to unpack and pack and then sell it and then be unpacked? Why is it it should be done all the way around? And that's why I let you a challenge right there, just 2-3 minutes, just to put forth for your own observation, and especially students and my own self. I'm still a student of managerial ethics, and that's why it's a challenge to me as well. Why should we not take up managerial ethics seriously, and to see where this research would hold on to? And that's why to go back, delve into the household ethic that we were always inclined to do. And that's why, just to briefly put this, research should be conducted primarily in natural settings. Yes, it should be done in AC halls. I'm not against AC halls at all, but the Dabbawalas are right out there. And then it should be done in natural settings, and direct observation should be combined with interviews. Yesterday I was talking to sir as well about this, about the research as how it is being done so much deeply into empirical studies. You take up any book just to demonstrate to you, special economic zones, it's priced 1,295, and if you look at it, it's basically talking about empirical studies, and more of empirical studies. And the problem with empirical study is that you get the data. There's no doubt about that. Everything is there, right? Table, yes. But have any one of us wondered whether we can put the faces of people to those tables? There are those definite faces of people to those decimal points. And that is what our culture had always talked about, not decimal points at all, to put faces behind those numbers. Have you ever tried to do it at all? Yes, we have the data, but has it been that our direct observation has been combined with interviews? Requires a focus on practice, on behavior and action, in addition to how people describe their own actions or explain their motivations. Yes, I'll be happy to say that all students are present, and therefore what I go back and tell my own college is that see, this many number of students attended my so-called lecture, and that's fine. And so in my own empirical studies, I would say my lecture was attended by so many students and it was a great success. Well, I do not know what you are thinking right now. And that is beyond the empirical studies. And this is what my own culture has attempted to do, is to have faith in people, to trust people that at least they would take an idea forward. That is all is required of me. And my own so-called success is not that you are present here. Probably, yes, it would help me in my own achievements, as it were. But it doesn't matter at all. Does it matter? It doesn't matter at all. Precisely because ours was more of an oral tradition. And then it went into the written tradition. And finally, we did get all those things out of that written tradition that were dumped to us from abroad. Not at all. Sir talked about stories. Yes, it was not that someone came and asked, did you listen to storytelling? Not at all. It basically began with the oral tradition of faith and trust and hope. And finally, a household ethic would help in various ways in our own workplaces, in our own managerial setup. Workplace increasingly becoming group-oriented rather than isolated. As Sir pointed out, that familial relationship foster commitment and trust, and working without expectation. This is very new to us. Working with expectation. That's a newest trend that we have. But if you go to family, you know your own families. You work without expectation. You trust without expectation. The demise of this person really builds a commitment up and in tune with that person whose demise, precisely because even I do not know that person, but I'm still, as pointed out, we really are connected because you feel that pinch. I have no idea how to explain this, but you feel that pinch, you are driven to that emotional edge precisely because of this, because we are family. When Reshma said yesterday, I couldn't, Reshma, this person who's in charge, I couldn't get it properly and said it is fine. But then when I heard this was the case, I called her back and apologized to her precisely because I couldn't hear her properly because I was on the road. This real intense situation that is happening in your campus right now. And that is what binds us together no matter what. And finally, towards self-motivated work culture rather than incentive-driven. I know it doesn't go well with you right now, but I hope you would take at least this idea forward towards self-motivated work culture rather than incentive-driven, which actually would let you to be resilient and to adapt in whatever situations that you are put into. In case your incentives are withdrawn, for that matter, will you be able to continue in the same level of high performance, that self-motivated work that you started out right at the beginning? Will you be able to continue the same performance work ethic that you had right before what the incentive actually gave you? And this is what happens when the so-called there is a lull there is a lull in the market, when there is a slowdown. India can survive a slowdown precisely because of this, because we can adapt, we are resilient, precisely because we are self-motivated and never definitely incentive-driven and upholding the honor of the household. This is very crucial to us. The honor of the institution, the honor of the industry, the honor of the managerial setup that you belong to is also my honor, our honor. Wherever the industry goes down or gets difficult, it also gets difficult for me. Precisely because my honor is closely entwined, interconnected to the honor of the industry, the institution that I serve. And that is why whether we are challenged to actually hold on to that for a longer legacy of that. And I'll let you finally with this diagram. Managerial ethics is religio-cultural values, business ethics, and the knowledge of the local context. I think the last one is the most important, knowledge of the local context. If not, and the previous one as well, religio-cultural values. If at all these are not informing our managerial ethics, and if one component is missing, there is a problem. There is definitely a problem. You have business ethics, you have religio-cultural values, then that is fine. But if you do not have the knowledge of the local context, then your managerial ethics is at fault. You have this proper balance between all these three things. You hold on to your roots, the religious or cultural values, no matter what they are, especially rooted in our own wells, the Indian context. A business ethic that allows you to explore all those managerial models that you have, and the knowledge of the local context, the knowledge of the dabbawalas, the knowledge of the milk person who serves you milk every morning. You have that knowledge, and if you don't take that seriously, you won't have a managerial ethic that can be continued. And that's why I hold on to this. And finally, I again like to thank you for your patience, and I hope we would drink finally from our own wells. Thank you.
We thank Reverend Dr. A.S. Palana to share his knowledge about the integration of economics, ecology and ecumerism with Ethos for the management of household, to keep our eyes open to the development around us and to drink our own water. Our last speaker for the day would be Dr. G. Srikumar Venon, who belongs to the 1978 batch of the Indian Revenue Service, Customs and Excise. He holds an MA and LLB degree and has a doctorate degree in the narcotics and psychotropic substance from the Managerial University. He has served in different capabilities as Assistant Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner at Chennai, Kolkata, Bangalore, and is presently Commissioner at Goa, Pune. He has also served as Trustee of New Mangalore Port Trust and appointed as Election Observer by the Election Commission of India. He has written a book on narcotics and psychotropic substances entitled Chasing the Dragon, and has written several articles on the matter connected to narcotics. We welcome you, sir, and request you to enlighten the crowd.
Respected lecturers, in fact I should call them acharyas and bright young minds, we begin this on a very somber note. It was totally unexpected. I don't know what to say. But we have to get over it. Because one day, all of us have to face it. I will just start with a quote from the Mahabharata. After the war, after the devastation, there were no victors. Everybody was a loser. And as you all know, the Pandavas went to the Himalayas. At that time, Lord Yama comes to test them. And he asks a series of questions to Yudhishthira. And one such question is, what is the most wonderful thing in this world? A very often question asked by every TV quiz master. And equally foolish answers from the audience, Taj Mahal, Eiffel Tower, and all sorts of things. Yudhishthira also faced the same problem. What is the most wonderful thing in this world? And you know what he said? Every day, every second, people are dying. Yet, the man who lives thinks that he is going to live till eternity. In modern hotel parlance, 24 hours check-in, check-out. Is it not? Anyway, I pray to the Almighty to grant peace to that soul who was ready for a take-off. Unfortunately, it got aborted. And now to use cricketing parlance, and the last man on the crease, and all of you are watching when he is going to get out. Kindly bear with me 10-15 minutes. I know your stomach is very hungry, even my stomach is hungry.
We are going to take off.
I represent the government, and we are a different kind of animal.
Not a social.
Whatever our great professor was talking, I was wondering, my God, if he hears how we function, what would be his reaction? Anyway, this would be a subject matter for many of you to write books about. I will tell you a simple instance. With that I will start. It is not connected with my lecture. I was working as additional commissioner here in Mangalore. One day we heard that a new boss was coming. And as you know, the reputation of the man precedes him. We got calls from everyone sympathizing. I got flustered. I was thinking what is happening. So immediately I called my batchmate and asked him, "Bhai, what is it you're sending to me?" He said, boss, last 3 years we have suffered him, now you also please do some social service. Then the day when he was coming by road through Hosur. I sent my superintendent to receive him. And I told him, this is the feedback that we have got about him. Be careful. He was a very capable man. And his reaction holds a big lesson for all of us. He went, then after some time he called me. He said, sir, he has come, we have received him. But there is a problem, sir. I asked him, what is it? No, as soon as this man has crossed into the Karnataka border, because he was coming from Tamil Nadu, all the officers there, they have gone to the nearest Ganesha temple and broken coconuts. So your feedback is correct. This chap is a dicey fellow. So instinctively I asked him, what do we do? You know what was his answer? Sir, don't worry. I will catch his madam. I got the shock of my life. But within 1 week, that man did wonders. He was the man Friday for Mrs. Boss. Her marketing, her shopping, he was a constant companion. And he would warn us, sir, today he has fought with her, keep away from her. Keep away from her. So that is management in government. So we are always thinking how to tackle, because though all these theories were told to you, ultimately you are going to confront us. You are going to come to us for everything. For policy, for direction, for permission. You think you have to tackle this animal. So you must also have an insight into how our brain works. So kindly think of writing a book, or maybe sir would very graciously write one. Now I will just enter into this topic.